Thanks.
All right, joining us now with more reaction of today's vote is Florida Congresswoman Cammack. Congresswoman, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to see you guys.
All right, well, Democrats have been pushing for this for a long time, and they passed it last year in the House, so it wasn't a shock that they passed it again today. But the difference this year, as Emerald was discussing, is that we now have a Democratic Senate and we have a Democratic president, someone who wants it. So the big question is, how is Joe Manchin feeling about this, and how is Kyrsten Sinema feeling about this? Do you think that they're going to vote?
Well, obviously, I can't speak for them, but again, I think this is just the same issue repackaged several times over. We've been dealing with this argument for decades, and I don't think that it's going to go anywhere in the Senate. Ultimately, this is just a Democratic power play to solidify control in the House and Senate for years to come. I ask people quite often, do you think that if D.C. was 90% Republican, that Nancy Pelosi would be pushing for D.C. statehood? I don't think so. This is nothing more than politics as usual, and we have seen that the Supreme Court has talked about this. They have talked about how the Founding Fathers' original intent under Federalist 43 wanted a specific neutral area for our nation's capital that was not beholden to any sovereign state. Not to mention the fact that Article 4, Section 3 of the United States Constitution talks about how if a federal seat is going to be created out of an existing sovereign territory, we have to get permission from that area, so from that state. Has anyone been talking to Maryland? Because that's originally who ceded the territory for this neutral capital ground that I'm actually sitting on right now. So again, I think this is just really a distraction from the real issues that we have at hand. You know, a crisis at the southwest border that is beyond out of control at this point. We have spending that is bankrupting our country, not 10 years from now, but today. And this is just an ultra-liberal left agenda at work here. And again, I ask people, if Republicans were the majority in D.C., would we be having this conversation? And they certainly aren't having that conversation about Puerto Rico statehood either. So it's just another day, another game.
Now, Congresswoman, you know, this is like a lot of other things, though, on the Democratic agenda where they can bring up race and use it as a cudgel against you. I have a clip here from one of your colleagues, Mandari Jones. Here's what he had to say.
I have had enough of my colleagues' racist insinuations that somehow the people of Washington, D.C. are incapable or even unworthy of our democracy. One Senate Republican said that D.C. wouldn't be a, quote, well-rounded working class state. I had no idea there were so many syllables in the word white. My goodness, with all the racist trash my colleagues have brought to this debate, I can see why they're worried about having a place to put it.
And nothing builds unity like throwing around terms like racist trash, right?
Oh, it's despicable, the language that's being used in our political discourse these days. You know, it's rules for thee, but not for me. I find it pretty hypocritical what the left wants to do in calling everyone a racist when they themselves are doing everything they can to divide and make it so that there are different classes of people in our country. What happened to this notion of unity under President Biden? That was part of his inaugural speech. Yet we have seen nothing but further division and them redefining bipartisanship, not to include Republicans and Democrats, but different factions of the Democratic Party. It's horrible. We saw Maxine Waters in her words talking about how we need to get more confrontational. And I never thought I would live to see the day when we're talking about infrastructure and racial and social justice infrastructure. I never knew a highway could be racist. It's incredible. We need to get back to the basics. I think that all this woke cancel culture nonsense is just to the detriment of our country. We need to get back to the things that matter, the things that our Constitution has explicitly outlined, preserving those rights for all Americans, regardless of economic status, race, background, where you come from. If we can get back to that, we'll be okay. But this woke culture, all this nonsense about further division, it's just hurting our country long term.
I hope we can get back to that. Congresswoman Cammack, thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you so much. Have a